I look at the markets today and I say, holy Toledo, the warnings that we have been giving out about Palantir ever since those Q3 earnings results, talking about a possible correction, has finally came to fruition in today's trading session. With PLTR nearly down 9%, including the after hours, what we've seen is a large change in the macroeconomic environment. And what we do have is many big retail companies have actually not reported as well of earnings that Wall Street was predicting. And they came out with this big uh-oh by basically saying that the consumer spending is at a decline. And this is not a good thing for Wall Street, especially coming in here to not just Black Friday, but the holiday season. Wall Street is putting the brakes on all the stocks. Nvidia reports their earnings a few hours ago. This is a whole separate subject that really needs to be deciphered, and how Wall Street is really taking a little bit of a turn in terms of not just the emotional perspective, but the momentum in the market. And talking about Palantir, it could be heavily affected. And even with bullish articles, Palantir coming down a little bit today. So if you're new to the channel or returning viewer, we have a lot to talk about. So thank you guys so much for watching. Hit that like button, subscribe for daily videos. And of course, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just collecting the data and dispatching it to you. Now, what we do have in terms of Palantir Technologies is this correction that we see in the markets after that Q3 earnings. Remember, we had Palantir that was continuing to rally and rally and rally. And as I continued to congratulate the bulls, the question was, when were we going to see the correction? That happened today. In terms of trading volume, over 100 million right now, market cap at 43 billion, as the bears could possibly be targeting the stock back here into the 18s if we don't see any type of key reversal here at the high 20s, where there was a little bit of consolidation. Now, talking about Palantir in the stock specifically, as we do look into the global markets and more of the kind of macroeconomic environment, is that Palantir officially scores the contract to the United Kingdom National Health System. Hey, that's great news. And you might be sitting here talking about, well, why did Palantir fall this much since they officially scored the contract? Number one, we got buy the rumor, sell the news. This is a large thing in terms of trading psychology and trading emotion among the markets, that, hey, the news is officially out. What's next for Palantir? There's nothing to talk about in terms of the major headlines. Palantir was able to finally secure this deal. However, the value of the deal is a little less than that we were originally anticipating. Originally, we were anticipating this contract to be about 400, I think, and 79 million, a different amount in pounds. I'm talking in dollars right here, but they were disappointed with the value of the deal. Talking about that, this came in over a 7-year term, and the contract commands a value of about 330 million pounds, and this converts here to 413 million. So nonetheless, this is great news for Palantir. I think still diversifying their clientele and even using their platform, not just for governmental contracts and even military contracts, but getting involved into different sectors like the healthcare sector. So I still see this as a big win for Palantir. However, we see the market that's actually pricing this in as more of a correction coming down here, which I don't think is the worst thing for Palantir considering the valuation that we do have. And talking about that, bears pushing the support back at the 18. And with Nvidia releasing their quarter earnings, we're seeing that being priced in, and we're going to really be seeing priced in tomorrow's market, considering how the trading atmosphere is going to continue. Now, this is a really important metric to talk about, is that the stock for Palantir has rallied more than 46% since November 1st. Taking a little bit of a breather for Palantir, I think, is important, not just in terms of the volatility, but the healthiness of the stock itself. And talking about that, and with support at the $18 handle, forming support at $18 is still pretty high for Palantir. We do need to consider that this stock is up over 200% year to date. It is one of the most trendiest stocks that is living off of the AI boom that we've seen in 2023, and has really done well in terms of the earnings that it's reported and the business operations that it's brought to help basically stay in line with this trendiness with their AIP platform. So a cool off here, I don't think is nonetheless to say bad. What you do have is a big change in momentum, and how I really kind of gauge this is the articles that are coming out among Wall Street. You have the stock market news here that stocks have slid after the slew of retail earnings disappoint. Before we get too far going back here, like I said, you have articles for Palantir that basically is saying, hey, investors are now set for a massive reality check, talking about how things are going to come down, unsustainable. All these articles were recently talking about how Palantir is very overvalued, but people are still considering to pay for that premium, which they are. At the end of the day, people are going to pay for the stock what they want to pay for the stock, and the stock will be worth what investors are willing to pay, regardless of their financials. And this is how we can see these stocks get into these unsustainable areas. Now, with that being said, you have a slew of retail earnings that have been disappointed for Wall Street. And some of these big companies that have disappointed are shares of companies like Lowe's, Best Buy, American Eagle, and Kohl's dropping on Tuesdays as we see a pullback in consumer spending clouded the forecast and registered a hit on sales. With that, like I said, going into December, the Santa rally, this could be a large change in terms of shift of momentum that we have seen. And in addition, we have Nvidia that releases their earnings again, and they actually crush Wall Street estimates. Yet we still see a decline in Nvidia due to this one reason we're going to be talking about here. Talking about Nvidia, they came in an adjusted earnings per share of $4.02 and revenue of $18.12 billion. Now, Nvidia is sitting at all-time highs right now in the $500 area and facing a key resistance point right there. This has crushed Wall Street expectations as they were anticipating a earnings per share of $3.36 and revenue of $16 billion. Also, what we do have is the company's revenue guidance for the current quarter also topped its estimates, coming in at $20 billion plus or minus 2%, compared to the projections of $17.8 billion. However, we do have, like I said, the bearish momentum and emotion that is taking over as the stock market reaction was muted to Nvidia crushing their earnings due to this right here, is that there's going to be restrictions on chip exports to China, and that would weigh on results. So what we see right here is that our sales to China and other affected destinations derived from products are now subject to licensing requirements, and they have consistently contributed approximately 20 to 25% of data center revenue over the past few quarters, and basically saying, hey, they come out here open and honest. We expect that our sales to these destinations will decline significantly in the fourth quarter of fiscal 2024, though they believe that the decline will be more than offset by the strong growth in other regions. And you see right here, Nvidia absolutely crushing their earnings. However, we still have the actual market and Wall Street that is continuing to price this in as a decline and using that bearish news as a momentum to bring down some of the rally that we have seen. And like I said, we've seen this in terms of reports. Even with Nvidia at 504 right here per share on Monday, we're seeing a little bit of a decline right now, basically into the 490s. So the question is, where does that leave Palantir? A lot of uncertainty up ahead, that is for sure, especially with Thanksgiving ahead. People are going to be focused on what kind of turkey they're eating, what's going on for dinner as we reopen the stock market right here. Talking about that, truth be told, Palantir is at a very high price to earnings. That is no doubt. However, I think this correction right here is healthy for Palantir, I think, in my own opinion. One thing that we do need to celebrate is Palantir secured that contract, and could that contract and the anticipation of that already has been priced into the markets. We saw that, especially with the run-up in Q3 and with the actual announcement of them being the top bidder for that, that seemed to already being priced in for Palantir. So considering that that's already priced in, and we're seeing a little bit of buy the rumor, sell the news on that forefront, in addition to the market uncertainty and how Nvidia will react, regardless, and pushing past this in terms of a time effect, because everything is forgotten with time, I think Nvidia being and how much they crushed their earnings shows you the demand for the AI development that we have seen. And I think why we could still continue to have an AI boom into 2024, depending on a huge variable, of course, with the interest rates. If the Fed decides to cut those, we could see an increase. Hold steady, we could see an increase. However, it's going to really depend on those inflationary reports, that CPI data. One thing that we are seeing, though, is a reduction in consumer price spending, which is good. People are saving their money and not spending it on ridiculous prices in terms of what these retail stores are starting to jack up some of the prices, and really showing you that a lot of people are hurting right now. So in terms of that, we could see that reduction in terms of the macroeconomic environment. But in terms of Palantir itself as an individual stock, still continuing to beat the expectations for Wall Street, securing deals, growing their customers, which at the end of the day, the customer growth is really important for Palantir. And also, it has that fourth quarter of GAAP profitability now, which helps bring maturity to the company. So still bullish on Palantir, of course. This correction, not surprised to say. We've been talking about it. Could it continue? Definitely. Could it fall below the 18s? Definitely. Will Palantir become much more attractive from my personal standpoint? Definitely. So that's what I have for you guys. Take care. Peace out, and I'll catch you guys later.